So we just heard yet another amazing speech from Nick Sparks about how to approach women. Yet I know that one question remains, and that is, what do I say? And that is always the perennial question. And I hope that you're starting to get this sense as you've been sitting here this weekend and perhaps as you've been watching this program at home, that what you say is not always something you plan out. It's not always something you perfect. And it's not always something that you script. And in fact, I'm so glad you asked what you did earlier, because what I find is that in many of my conversations, if I'm able to do a few of the things I'm going to show you in this segment, the girl works to build rapport with me. And so what do I say becomes a dialogue and not a monologue of me just pushing, to keep the conversation going. This is something that over time, with practice and as your confidence elevates, you'll become better and better at, and that's something I can promise you. Something that we work on when we do coaching. And men are so amazed at the simplicity of not having to know what to say and just approaching women and the responses they get when they start doing what we teach, what Nick teaches, for example. I can promise you guys that if you were to go out and just put into place what Nick showed you just now and accept the fact that you're going to fail and fuck up once or twice as you try to work through the mechanics of it, all of a sudden it'll just solve itself. And you just mess up a few times, but you keep working on the very foundational stuff and just kind of run your mouth. You'll screw up a few times, but if you just do that stuff, you will be successful. With that said, there are always inevitable questions, and I remember when I was sitting in the same place that you guys are sitting right now, and I sucked at talking to women, and not to say that that's where you guys are, but I remember when I was challenged to talk to women, I didn't know exactly what to say. So I want to give you a little bit of stuff to get you going. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about how do we actually get attraction before we approach the girl. And this is a big thing. I'd say that a lot of my, if you want to call it game, if I was out at a nightclub or a bar, is going to be based on trying to get as much attraction as I can before I even approach her or before she looks at me. So that's the big goal here, is get attraction before the approach. And there's a few things that we can do. The first one is a term that Nick came up with, which is called bro circling. Actually, Evan, do you mind if I borrow you again for just a moment? So bro circling, if you think about most guys who stand in a bar, what do they look like? Hey, so, yeah. How's your night going? Yeah, I know, me too. Yeah, I wish some girls would talk to us.
Girl over there.
Who, her?
Yeah.
I think she notices looking at her shit. Like, hang on, yeah, sorry. Okay, so that's most guys in a bar, right? Bro circling is the opposite of that. Normally you'd have it with a bunch of bros. But bro circling is we're in our own world and we're having fun and we're just laughing about shit and doing all the stuff that we need to do. We're being expressive. We're enjoying our conversation. So wait, dude, so last time I talked to you, you said you were going to India, was it?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah, dude. Have you ever been there?
I've been to Asia. Well, I've been to Asia. I almost rode an elephant. I got peed on by a monkey. Did I tell you about getting peed on by a monkey?
What the hell? How did that happen?
Well, it sat on my shoulder and started urinating on me. So, have you ever been urinated on before?
Well, yeah, but that's a totally different story.
Okay. So this right here is what you do when you go into a bar with your buddies. This is bro circling. It's a very, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's just a putting a term to a very simple phenomenon, which is having fun with your buddies when you're out, talking shit, getting into little competitions like, well, I think the Yankees are going to win this year. I think the Red Sox are going to win this year. And not really paying attention to what's going on in the restroom. Maybe every now and then you notice a girl walk by, you're like, oh, yeah. But like, you're really in your own world. And if you do this at the same time that you are near a high traffic area, in a cocktail party, maybe it's the kitchen. At a bar, maybe it's the bar. Women will just magically appear. They will just show up. And you're like, oh, like girls are around. You know why? Because you're creating value in the room. People are out to have fun. They're out to enjoy themselves. And they see these people enjoying themselves, and they want to be nearby it. Now, it might not be the woman who you want to approach. It might not be that one girl off in the corner who you've got your eye on. But you start to do this, you create value in the room, and people are going to notice, and you're going to have some attractive girls around you. So Then you want to do what I call going for the layups. We all know what a layup is in basketball. So you're going to go for the easy shots. You're going to see some girls around you. You're going to be talking to your buddy. You're going to be like, hey, have you, actually, I probably wouldn't say that. I'd be like, hey, have you been peed on before? That would not be a good conversation starter. Maybe it would if you're like, this is a really crazy place and the girls are like, but you're just going to grab a girl who's nearby you and like bring her into the conversation somehow. And you can bring her in like directly. You can be like, hey, come here. We need a girl to talk to about this. Or just in passing, you can be like, hey, quick question for you. Good example of this one time is my buddies and I were talking about Friends, that TV show Friends. I was like, hey guys, sorry, real quickly, what's the name of Jennifer Aniston's character on Friends? And everybody jumps in like, oh, it's Rachel. I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. Back to my conversation. So I'm just having fun, and then maybe a moment later I might reopen the conversation. But I'm going to go for the layups. Another layup is just the girls who look open. Nick talked about the girls who are giving you attention and eye contact. Just look for the girls who are standing there the same way that Evan and I were when we were like being the weird dudes. Right? So there's certain girls who just go to the bar and they're very open. You're just going to look for those girls and go talk to them. Another one that's great. So you're going to bro circle up. You're going to get some girls talking to you. Next thing you might do, and this is definitely part of my social program, is go find the hottest girl in the room and talk to her. So this is a line that I came up with years ago. It was rooted in reality. I was jean shopping with my friend Bree that day, and I realized how difficult it is for women to buy jeans for themselves and make their butts look nice. Maybe, yes? Is this a phenomena? Yes. So apparently this is a phenomena, and after trying on 20 pairs of jeans, she was dissatisfied with all of them. So what I found to be an effective conversation starter was I would walk up to a very attractive girl and I'd be like, hey, listen, the dress you're wearing or the jeans you're wearing or what have you, I have a friend who has a very similar physique to yours, and this outfit just looks amazing on you. And I was just shopping with her earlier today, and she was looking for jeans. Do you mind if I ask you what brand that is? Or do you mind if I ask you what dress that is? So you just get that initial conversation going with the really attractive girl. You're not hitting on her. Your body language is doing everything that I kind of told you. Your focus is on her, but you don't even have a flirtatious vibe at that point. If she hasn't been giving you anything, if this is the first time that you've kind of entered her awareness, then you're not trying to pierce it and make it like super flirtatious. All you're doing is just like, what's going on outside? All you're doing is just building a little bit of rapport with her, and that's it. So when you get the hot girl talking to you, every other girl in the room is going to be like, whoa, like that girl is talking to this guy, and like he must have some value. And that's the real magic of this. You're not talking to the hot girl to hit on her. You're talking to the hot girl to get every other girl in the room to pay attention to you. And that's what's going to happen. So then you can kind of take your pick from there and move around. And you'll find girls come up to you, approach you, and maybe you just get some eye contact from one and you keep doing all the stuff that we've been talking about. Another real easy thing to do to get attraction before the approach is talk to the couple or the guy. I hear that one of the men in our midst was doing that a fair amount last night. Now, when I talk about doing that, I mean in a very platonic way. So what I'll often do is I'll find like a very friendly, open couple, and like maybe they're standing at a bar, maybe they're at a table, and I'll just position myself nearby them and wait to hear what they're talking about. So great example I always tell is like, I'm at a bar one time and I hear these people talking about Braveheart, and I just jump into the conversation. I was like, yeah, sorry to overhear, guys. It's just like, that was one of my favorite movies ever. Mel Gibson's character in that is just like such a representation of what a man should be. And it's just a fun, friendly group. I think there were like 3 or 4 of them, and like they just jumped in, picked up, and we kept vibing. So if you go into a bar and you just find people who are like, look kind of open and look like they're having a lot of fun and have good conversations, you want to be careful, like not to find, like you can have a foursome, right, of people who are just like there and they're kind of in their own world. So you got to differentiate the people who are a little closed off from the people who are just like, their body language is a little bit more open, they're laughing a lot. So make friends with the couple, the guy, or what have you. And then we said pick the social spot. Finally, when it comes to actually approaching the girl, I find what's helpful is either being the first guy in or the last. And traditionally, I'm the last guy in. I'm not going to lie, I'm not great about approaching women. Like just going up, starting that conversation. I do it if it like presents itself as an opportunity, but I don't actively like oh, that girl, going to go talk to her. So it's a lot more of what we were just talking about now and just seeing what comes of the night. And usually what will happen is if you're doing all these things, you'll get eye contact from the girl you want, or you'll find yourself in a conversation with another girl who you're really into. And so then what will happen is maybe Nick will go and approach her. Right? That often happens. It's really helpful if you've got a guy who's what we call an asset. The asset is the one who, in the Bourne Identity, they're always like calling the asset to go murder the person. In our world, the asset is the guy who goes in and does the approach. It's a very valuable skill to have if you can develop it. If you can't, or if that's just not your personality, find a guy who is, and just be the guy who comes and really makes him look good and kind of closes. So those are a few ideas about getting attraction before the approach, and and about general bar strategy that you might use when you're going out. What are you going to talk to? What are you going to talk to the girl about, though? Where does the conversation go? Is it kind of on everybody's mind? Like, what do I say to girls when I first meet them? Yes, because I can skip it. Yeah, I can skip it. You guys want to hear this? Okay, all right. So, that person. So, honestly, the start of the conversation is usually going to be fluff talk. It's usually going to be just like a really simple fluff, like, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? How do you know the host? What brought you out tonight? If you're so inspired, you can always, use different lines. Hey, I saw you from across the bar and I just had to come talk to you. I find you very attractive. I'm trying to think of some other, opening conversation lines I've used. Oftentimes it'll be situational. So like, last time I was out and actually talking to girls, it had been like winter was becoming spring. So I noticed a girl wearing sandals. And I just standing next to her. It was one of these bro circle situations. I'm out with my buddies and we're just having fun. And I see her standing next to me like, oh my God, you're wearing sandals. She's like, yeah, I know. I was like, first sandals I've seen all year. You're making me very happy right now. Why is that? Spring is coming. Winter is over. And you're like in the mood already. You're in the spirit. She's like, I know. And so we just start vibing about that, having fun talking about it. It's a very situational approach. So there's that. We already talked about your body language, tonality, eye contact, getting all that stuff right. The next thing that I'm normally going to do, once we get past that fluff talk, is I'm going to start to try to get a little bit personal. And I'm going to try to drop in some sort of high-value story about my life. This is my own programming. Everybody has their own thing, right? But my thing is normally, I'm going to try to drop in some high-status or high-value story about my life and do it in a way that's not bragging, but just where it's like, I got a fucking cool life. And so my goal with this is just establish in her mind, like, okay, like I want her to remember me as the guy who did X. So there's a couple stories that I'll always kind of go to that demonstrate that I'm adventurous, that I take risks, that I really value certain things in life. And these go-to stories are things that I'll just try to take the conversation in that direction. 2 tuna rolls from Wa por favor. Okay. So the key point with this is if this is your life, if you really do have high value things to talk about, then that's the better way to roll. We've already talked about that. Once you kind of vibe on some high value, you share a little bit about yourself, but it's really all about getting her to open up and learning more about her. The next thing that you're going to try to drive towards is her motivations. So what led her to do what she's talking about, what led her to be this way. We're going to do a demonstration where this should become pretty apparent. But again, the third thing is I want to drive towards the who of who she is. Why does she do what she does? What about her? And this way we're getting past the topic that we're talking about, which could be travel, and we're getting into a personal situation or personal understanding of each other. So what led her to be this way? Fourth part of this, is what I would call qualification. So this is where I'm affirming that I like that she is that way. Wow, that's amazing, you're so spontaneous. We could have an amazing time traveling the world together. Something like that. And then the fifth step, if you want to just accelerate it right there, is asking for her number. So we're gonna demo that whole process right now. And we haven't really practiced this yet, so I may completely screw it up, but I think it'll probably go just fine. So come on up. And is that semi-clear at least? Give you guys a little bit of a structure to start to work off of? Okay. So here we are. We're just going to start talking. What we were going to start talking about is I was going to ask like how you know. Yeah, we're at a party. We've just met each other. I kind of saw her across the way. Maybe we're in the kitchen. This will happen sometimes. You just see somebody and you start talking to them. And you're like, so, how do you know everybody here? And that's what we're going to start rolling with. So wait, Alicia, how do you know everybody here?
I actually don't know that many people here. I'm friends with one person, and this is just like they invited me.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
always invited.
honestly, I don't know too many people here either. So like we can be conspiratorial party judgers as we look around the room and like, 'cause, when it's your friends, you don't always want to be like, oh, that person's a piece of shit. But we don't know any of these people,
So you
we
judge away.
we could completely judge away. Well, do you get like invited to things randomly
I
like
kind
this a
of
lot?
do. I feel like my friends know I'm like a yes man. Like I love being spontaneous and just.
Interesting, because normally you hear yes men, like people don't think
Woman.
that's a good thing. You are a woman, right?
Well,
I mean, I haven't checked completely yet, but all right, good to know. Good to know. Just wanted to get that out of the way. So anyway, but normally people think that's like a bad thing, but yeah,
Being
you're here.
spontaneous?
No, being a yes person.
no, it's awesome.
So you mean this in a spontaneous way? You don't mean this in like you just are always telling your boss like yes, 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 yes.
I mean, maybe a little bit of both, but more like spontaneous. I love it for the aspect of
The fact that you just
having stories and life experiences, and yes,
actually I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you said that because sometimes I go out and I've lived some really crazy spontaneous adventures. Every now and then I'll meet somebody and I'll like be talking about one of these things and they'll be like, and I just kind of look in their eyes and they're like, like that just seems like a little too much. And like you just see that look. Like, do you ever get that from people where they're just like, whoa, like what you're talking about, I just can't relate to at all?
I can't fathom it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So it sounds like we kind of understand each other now. What's something spontaneous you've done?
oh gosh.
And besides coming here tonight and
stranger
just-
party.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I
exactly.
got invited to go to India with like 2-week notice.
Okay,
to a wedding.
that's not spontaneous. Did you go?
Yeah.
That's spontaneous. Okay, gotcha.
No,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, 2-week notice, that gives you enough time to book your ticket
Get a
and
visa.
Oh, is that hard?
Apparently not at all.
Okay.
That's
Well, you
really
look friendly.
easy.
like you just show up. You're like, hey, let me
Have a
in.
visa?
Yeah.
Like, here you go.
Yeah. Did you ride like any elephants when you
I
were
did.
there?
I rode an elephant and a camel.
I feel like that's kind of the cliche thing to do.
They're like
is-
cars. They like go with traffic, like with your cars.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Interesting.
It's really cool.
Maybe sitting up above the cars.
Oh yeah.
Do you have an urge to like stomp on any cars when you're like down below you, or?
No, not so much.
I would totally want to do that. I would totally want to stomp on the cars, like being the elephant, like, yo, that guy, he just cut us off.
Like you're mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not to be too vindictive, but like, that's every boy's little fantasy is to ride around an elephant and stomp on cars.
Oh my god.
Did you know this?
No, I had no idea.
Secret of male psychology that I've just shared with you right now. So if you ever meet a man and you want to really win his heart, a great date to take him on would be on top of an elephant. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't think I've ever done. Oh, I did hang out with some monkeys one time. I was in Bali and we went to this monkey forest and we had the monkeys kind of climbing all over us and they were opening bags and like kind of trying to get to gum and I actually might have gotten peed on by one of the monkeys.
Might have
and-
gotten peed on?
Yeah, well, I don't know you that well. I mean, I don't want to tell you if it definitely happened because that's, could be kind of weird if I'm not a guy who normally likes to get peed on, but in this.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was awesome. It was just like the whole trip, Asia's just like so foreign and like so different and like there was always this mystery about it to me that like when I would go out to Asia, like just, it felt like there was some puzzle to be unlocked when I was out there. And then I realized that it's actually just a lot of poverty and a lot of people struggling and a lot of people hawking cigarettes. And were you anywhere else besides India or?
A while ago, like in college, I went to Greece for a study abroad.
Okay.
Which was awesome, but I was in college, so it was like, it was like.
It was one of those?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
It was
cool.
fun.
But I'm getting this sense that you're like just very, very spontaneous and like very
I
outgoing.
feel like you have to be. Like it just makes. I mean, like I have stories to tell, and it's exciting and it's fun, and even if it's bad, you can make it into something good.
That's such a positive attitude that you have. You should at least start a blog, or like start tweeting or like just a positivity tweet every day.
Tweeting is foreign
foreign concept to me.
Okay, I mean, fine. That's fine. I actually don't have a Twitter account
I mean,
either.
I should, yeah.
Are we past the age where it's like correct to have a Twitter account? Because I mean, I think the Iranian president just got a Twitter account or something. So maybe it's like,
My mom has one.
maybe it's time for us to get Twitter accounts. I just feel so weird being like, I just tweeted this. Like
Right,
it's just,
yeah.
it's just a bit of a strange
Can I
thing.
have Facebook? Can I just Facebook it?
That's, yeah, I don't know. Do you get on Facebook much?
Yeah, I do. Here and there when I do something exciting and I know my mom wants to know about it, maybe I don't have time to like call her all the time. I'll post it and she gets really excited and she can like, and then all of her friends
Do you
know about
remember
it.
the moment that your mom joined Facebook?
I do.
It's a kind of a big moment because you're like, oh my gosh, like my private life is just being exposed to my mother.
Right, and they don't quite, like she doesn't quite get it yet, so like everything's in all caps and she doesn't understand.
Hey, did you have the all cap mom?
Everybody-
Did you have the all cap mom?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
that's
she's yelling at
amazing.
me all the time.
That's amazing.
Very exciting.
All right, let's pause right here. So we were trying to work through that. Some of it worked exactly as I wanted, some of it didn't. I normally wouldn't dwell on monkeys peeing on myself, but apparently we've been talking about that today, so it just stuck in my mind. I hope I didn't recover too poorly from that one. What I did try to do is throw in a little bit of like a story about my own life, like just a little bit of stuff that I could relate to, keep you talking. Any thoughts from your end? And, you know, just honestly, like thoughts on how that went, what worked, what didn't?
No, it's good. I get what you're saying because it made me like feel good about the experiences I've had, and I was excited to tell you about them and talk about them, and you're kind of like reiterating.
Okay, cool. The eye contact was okay. The body language is not too bad.
No?
All right, good. So that would be like a normal conversation I would have at a cocktail party. And then I think we would normally, like, if I was getting along with you, I'd be like, hey, you know what, like, why don't we, like, I need a drink right now. Let's go grab a drink somewhere. So it's really gonna be that simple. At a bar where there's alcohol, it's gonna be a little bit more charged, but it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. You're welcome to have a seat at this point. Thank you very much for that. Do you guys have questions based on what you saw, based on what was going on? I mean, there wasn't anything mysterious or mystical going on there, but yeah.
You have a first conversation like that, you're obviously going to be at the same party for a little bit of time, but sometimes the conversation kind of taps out. Maybe it's good to re-engage the person later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, like, but sometimes it just feels awkward to kind of pause that conversation. It could go on, it might not. But do you find like there's a good way to kind of like pause it, maybe like I'll catch you later kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, that can work. Be like, hey, listen, I'm going to go, grab some buddies, or I really got to use the restroom. I'll catch up to you in a little bit. And honestly, another thing you can just say is like, hey, listen, I really like talking to you. I'll catch you up in a little bit. I've done that before plenty of times. And just go out and find someone else to talk to. Go reconnect with your buddies. So if it's not like totally connecting in that first moment, and this is something else to keep in mind, is like there's been times when I've had conversations like that which were like good but not amazing. Like we got along very well, but like sparks weren't like flying right away. But like maybe the party goes on, there's another drink that's had, and maybe we connect and like we're like, oh hey, like how's it going again? Maybe we, find ourselves talking to each other again, and like after 2 or 3 or 4 subsequent conversations, it really starts to click. So if you don't have that like amazing, if your first conversation is good but not like amazing, then don't feel bad about it and don't write it off, because plenty of times I've had conversations just like that, and maybe 10 years ago I would have had that conversation like, oh shit, like I totally messed that up. Like I talked about how I don't like being peed on, and really I didn't really share that much about myself, and like she just kind of gave me this look when I was saying this one thing, and like fuck, I totally ruined it. And like, now if I had a conversation like that, it'd be like, all right, like it's on, it's all good. Like I'm still gonna keep talking to her, and and I would just not get too hung up on that. So I hope that gives an answer, so thanks. Something else to keep in mind is there were a few points where I like said stupid stuff, and I say stupid stuff a lot. Like no matter what my position in the world might be as a coach who teaches guys how to talk to girls, I say stupid stuff pretty frequently because I just say a lot of stuff. So when you say a lot of stuff, inevitably you will say stupid stuff. And the goal is just not get too hung up by it, kind of recover from it, and like just, move on. I was talking about that, and then I immediately went back to like, okay, well, Asia and blah, 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 and, went on. So, yeah, so that was, just not getting hung up by the bad stuff. I'm actually really glad the conversation went that way and not like so like sparks perfectly, because I feel like that's the conversation that more guys have than like the smooth, amazing, like this is the best conversation I've ever had in the world. Other questions about that one? Okay, cool. So those are 5 things in the initial conversation that you can work in. I didn't quite work in that high value story. I kind of like dropped it for a second. But if we'd continued talking, I didn't want to just take up all of our time today by talking. I would have definitely driven towards more of like, more about myself, gotten more to open up, and like shared certain things about me that I just wanted her to have in my mind. I probably really would have stuck with the Asia thing about how like, about like my travels to Asia and how much Asia means to me. The one other thing that I'm actually curious about, did you like the story about the elephants and like smashing cars and like,
I was going to comment on you said like you saying stupid things or whatever, but stupid things are great as long as you don't apologize for them. I mean, it's funny, like if you say something stupid and you're like, then
Right.
that's weird, but if you
Right, thanks.
of course, it's a funny story, it's awesome.
Right. Yeah, not like, I guess like Alex was saying yesterday, just being genuine and allowing myself to say stupid things. And one other thing along those lines is, I noticed that I did this, I'm noticing this retroactively, is I like kind of gave you advice. I was like, if you ever want to take a guy out on a date and really impress him, you can like put him on an elephant and like, and you responded pretty favorably to that, but in that moment, that was like definitely a status move, right? I was like, I'm giving you some advice. I'm telling you something to do. And I was also almost disqualifying myself as somebody who she would be dating in that moment. I was like, if you ever want to take a guy out on a date and impress him. So that's definitely something I didn't plan to do in that conversation, but I suppose came out subconsciously. Next up, we want to talk about resetting impression. So how do we reset the conversation if a girl does not think of us sexually and we want her to think of us sexually? Basically, how do we get out of the friend zone? So that's going to be the next segments in the course.